Today, I want to talk about something that I think a lot of people who identify as INFJ quietly struggle with. And honestly, this one is a little different from my usual videos because I am not going to give you a deep research breakdown or a list of psychological terms. I just want to have a real conversation about something that drains the life out of people like us. I want to talk about bad people. And before I go any further, let me say the same thing I always say at the beginning of every video. Your MBTI type does not make you a good or bad person. Neither does your zodiac sign, your birth year, your personality traits, or any other label you carry. People are shaped by so many things. How they grew up, what they experienced,
who they were surrounded by,
their mental health, their biology, the cultural environment they were raised in. A personality type is just a pattern. It is not a verdict on someone's character. So when I talk about bad people today, I am not assigning that label to any specific MBTI type. But here's a thought worth sitting with for a moment. INFJ is estimated to be one of the rarest personality types in the world. Depending on the source, somewhere between 1 and 3% of the population identifies this way. That is a small number. So if we're just thinking about probability, the overwhelming majority of people in the world, including the difficult and harmful ones, are not INFJ. They belong to the other types that make up the remaining 97 to 99%. That is just basic math. And yet, despite that small percentage, there are absolutely INFJs who behave badly. I talked about that in a previous video, actually, the one about INFJ and narcissism. Nobody gets a pass just because of their personality type. Character is a choice, even if some choices are harder to make than others. But today, I do not want to focus on bad INFJs. I want to talk about what it feels like to be an INFJ who is surrounded by people who are genuinely harmful. Because that experience is very specific, and it is exhausting in a way that is hard to put into words. One of the most defining traits of this personality type is the strong pull toward assuming positive intent. People who are wired this way genuinely want to see the good in others. Even when someone is showing them bad behavior, there is a part of them that looks at that person and sees potential. They see who that person could be, not just who they are right now. They think, maybe they are going through something. Maybe they had a hard life. Maybe they have not had the right support. Maybe if I just give them more patience, more understanding, more time, something will change. And the thing is, that instinct is not foolish. It comes from a real and deep belief in people's capacity to grow. That belief, in the right relationships and the right circumstances, is one of the most beautiful things about this personality type. It makes for extraordinary friends, deeply invested partners, and teachers or helpers who genuinely change lives. But here's the part nobody talks about enough. When that instinct gets activated around people who do not deserve it, it becomes a drain. Not just a small inconvenience, but a real, physical, emotional drain that builds over time. Because assuming positive intent is not passive. It is active work. It requires constant mental effort to override what you are observing and replace it with a more charitable interpretation. And when you are doing that for multiple people, across multiple situations, day after day, it wears you down in a way that is hard to explain to someone who does not experience the world this way. There is also a secondary effect that I find particularly painful. When you have been extending positive intent to someone for a long time, and the evidence keeps telling you that your interpretation is wrong, something strange can happen. Instead of concluding that the person is simply not good for you, you start to wonder if the problem is you. You think, maybe I am being too judgmental. Maybe I am seeing things that are not there. Maybe the fact that I am forming these thoughts about them means I am the one with the problem. And that self-directed judgment can be brutal. Especially for someone who already holds themselves to very high standards and already has a strong internal critic running in the background. The truth, though, is this. Recognizing that someone is harmful is not the same as being a bad person yourself. Noticing a pattern of behavior that consistently hurts you or others is not cruelty. It is observation. It is information. And information processed honestly is supposed to lead somewhere. It is supposed to help you make better choices about who you let close and how much energy you invest. The challenge for people wired this way is learning when to stop extending that positive intent. And that is genuinely hard because it feels like giving up on someone. It feels like failing at something they believe in. But there is a difference between believing in someone's potential and being responsible for coaxing it out of them at the expense of your own well-being. Those are not the same thing. Some people are not ready to change. Some people do not want to. Some people actively use the kindness and patience of emotionally generous people against them. And the sooner you can accept that without blaming yourself for it, the less damage those people can do to you. I also want to say something about the world right now because I think context matters. These days, there are more ways for difficult and harmful people to reach others than ever before. Online spaces have created entirely new channels for bad behavior, including the kind that is invisible, deniable, and hard to trace. Someone does not have to be in your physical life to drain your energy or cause real harm. And that means the mental work of filtering, protecting yourself, and making judgments about who gets access to your emotional world has become even more demanding than it used to be. For someone who is naturally attuned to other people's intentions and emotional states, and who defaults to charitable interpretations, that kind of environment is particularly taxing. Because the signals are everywhere, the noise is constant, and the instinct to engage, to understand, to find the humanity in every situation does not switch off just because the situation has become overwhelming. So if you are someone who identifies with this personality type and you have been feeling drained by the people around you, I want to say this directly. Your ability to see good in people is a real and valuable gift. It is not something you should try to eliminate, but it is something you need to use selectively. Not everyone has earned the right to receive that level of benefit of the doubt from you. Not everyone will grow into the potential you are able to see in them. And protecting your energy from people who are consistently harmful is not a moral failure. It is a necessary act of self-preservation. You are allowed to reach a conclusion about someone. You are allowed to decide that you have seen enough. You are allowed to stop trying. That is not the same as being cold or unfeeling. It is called having limits. And limits, for people who struggle to maintain them, are one of the most important things to practice. Bad people exist. That is not a comfortable or inspiring thing to say, but it is true. And the kindest, most empathetic, most patient people in the world are not exempt from encountering them. They are often exactly the people those harmful individuals seek out because generosity and patience are things that can be exploited. That is not your fault, but it is something worth knowing. And finally, if you have been judging yourself for noticing that someone is harmful, for feeling drained after being around certain people, for struggling to keep assuming positive intent when everything you observe tells you otherwise, please stop. Your instincts are not the problem. Your observations are not the problem. The problem is the situation you are in, and you are allowed to do something about it. I am still learning how to do this too, honestly. It does not come naturally to me to accept that some people are just not good for me and leave it at that. But I am getting better at recognizing when my energy is being spent on people who have shown me, repeatedly and clearly, that they do not intend to grow. And every time I redirect that energy towards something that actually gives back, it reminds me that protecting yourself is not a selfish act. It is the only way to have anything left to offer the people who actually deserve it. Before I close, I want to hear from you. Have you ever been in a situation where you kept assuming positive intent far longer than was good for you? And what finally made you stop? I would love to read your stories in the comments, because I think this is something a lot of people are carrying quietly, and it helps to know you are not alone. Thanks for watching. If this video resonated with you, please consider hitting the subscribe button. I want to be upfront and share that I use this text-to-speech voice to tell my stories because, as a full-time ESL teacher, I have to be very careful with my vocal cords. Managing vocal nodules means I have to save my voice for my students, but I didn't want that to stop me from sharing these unfiltered thoughts with you. I'm Jhonna, and I'm currently working toward my goal of 1,000 subscribers so I can finally monetize this channel and turn this passion into a sustainable part of my future. This is my diary of solo living here in the Philippines, and your support, whether through a comment or a sub, helps me keep this channel growing. If you would like to help out even more, you can check out the Buy a Treat for My Pets link in the description. My dogs definitely appreciate the love. Make sure you are subscribed so you do not miss the next update. Thank you for being such an important part of this journey. I'm Jhonna, and I will see you in the next one.